The advice and opinions expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. The Center for Autism and Related Disorders advises working with a board-certified behavior analyst who has experience with autism before starting any intensive behavioral intervention. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Good morning and welcome to Autism Live. I'm Shannon Penrod and we're coming to you live from the Warner Center in Woodland Hills, California. This is the home for Autism Live. It is also the home for the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. We're so thrilled to be here with you. This is our last live show in the studio for the month of April. It is not our last live transmission. We'll talk more about that later. Normally on Thursday, we go through some things and do the jargon of the day and all that at the top of the show. We're going to push that back a little bit because we have so many guests that we want to make sure we have time for them, and I think we're going to have time to get to the jargon in the second hour, but it's a big show today. So we're going to start out by telling you that the next 2 hours we're going to be live, and we really want it to be interactive with you. We hope that you'll participate. So Samantha's going to show you some of the different ways that you can participate, while I remind you that our homepage is autism-live.com. You can watch the live show there. You can interact with us there. In fact, there's a live feature there that is completely anonymous. That's one of the benefits of watching on that particular site. But there are other ways, and Samantha's showing you other ways. But if you do go to autism-live.com, put your cursor in the box that says your question, type, hit enter, and it shows up here on my screen. But ask early. There is a bit of a couple of minute delay, and sometimes I see your question right after the guest has left or right after we go off the air. So, try to interact early so that you can get your question in, all right? And you can also be watching the show by clicking on that triangle that is on the screen, on the computer screen on that homepage. And if you want to watch the 100 most recent episodes, go up into the upper left-hand corner. There's a memo tab. You can click on that and cycle through all the shows that you want to. If you want more than that, you can head over to YouTube, iTunes, all those different places, Stitcher, Roku. We're everywhere and we're free. And I love that. And of course, can't forget Facebook Live. We enjoy having you watch us there. So we're not going to do the jargon of the day right now. We're going to do that later because, as I said, too many guests. In just a second, we're going to take a break and we're going to be joined by Melanie Gertzman from Blue Laces Theater Company. That's going to be fabulous. We're going to have a lovely talk with her. Then we're going to be joined by Adam Isaacs from PAL Experiences. Then we're going to head on over to Bonnie Yates. She's going to give us legal information. We're going to continue to answer your questions and take apart the nuts and bolts, as she says, of IEPs. And then we've got an amazing interview for you with Kamina Ballard Dawkins. She is a World Autism Ambassador. We've got great tips for you for autism in the classroom, and we have our mindfulness moment, and we're going to end the show today with a special tribute to the fabulous Amy Zhang, who is leaving ACT today as of tomorrow. And we might even have time to say a happy birthday because on this Saturday, it is the lovely and talented Samantha's birthday. So we might even have time to squeeze in a little birthday celebration for her today. All that and much more. But first, we got to go to break because in just a couple of seconds, we have Melanie Gertzman from the Blue Laces Theater Company. You're going to love her. Stick with us.
A lot of adults don't really believe kids. They'll think, kids are kids. What are they talking about? But when a child stands up for what they believe in, it's so strong and powerful. I first got involved with autism advocacy 4 years ago when my friend was diagnosed. When I found out about my friend's diagnosis, I didn't really understand what it meant. But it didn't matter to me or change our friendship. I didn't look at her any differently. We still had so much fun together. Now I know that she experiences life a little differently than me, and that's okay. Knowing what she goes through has helped me to understand and be more caring towards other people in similar situations. I got involved with ACT Today because I wanted to do whatever I could to help. They provide options like behavioral therapy, medical care, social skills programs, assistance to military families, and much more. Being there for my friend was my #1 priority. I've been volunteering and spreading the word about the cause via my social media platform because raising awareness is a crucial first step. There needs to be more kids and teens involved to make sure that our voices are heard just as loudly as the adults. You may be small like me, but your acts of kindness are not.
Welcome back to Autism Live. We rearranged our schedule today because we have a very special guest. She's been with us once before on the show. Melanie Gertzman from the Blue Laces Theater Company is joining us all the way live from New York City. First of all, Melanie, welcome back.
Thank you.
So thrilled to have you here. I was just saying during the break that I'm jealous, chartreuse with envy, because you get to do something pretty remarkable. You're working in a field that I'm jealous because it's pretty exciting. Tell the folks watching, if they hadn't seen you before, what the Blue Laces Theater Company is.
Sure. So Blue Laces Theater Company, we create highly interactive and multisensory theatrical performances for people living with autism spectrum disorder and with other developmental differences. So while some companies are starting to do autism-friendly performances, which is where they'll take a show that they've already produced that's designed for neurotypical people, and they'll make it autism-friendly for a show or two. What we do is we devise shows specific for this population, and so they're exclusive to our audiences, and so they are very small. We usually typically only have 5, maybe 10 people in our audiences, and we'll partner each audience member with our ensemble member, and we call them adventure guides in addition to our cast members. And adventure guides, they serve as ambassadors to that audience member through the show. So we get our audience members' information ahead of time. We know their likes, their dislikes, their triggers, their sensitivities, etc., so that the adventure guide can tailor the experience specifically to that person's likes. So if someone just wants to run around the entire time, that adventure guide is going to run around with them. Or if they want to hang back and hang in our interactive lobby before the show, that's fine. So what we try to do is we create a theatrical experience that's truly meant to be experienced however the audience member wants. We don't want them to adapt to us, but we want to adapt to them to give them the most fun, safe, and enjoyable theatrical experience they can.
It's an amazing project that you guys have been doing for quite a while, and there are lots of different ways to get involved. Right now you have a show that is running that we want to make sure that we talk about. Tell us what's running right now.
Yes, so we are remounting the show that we produced last May. It's called Out There. It's a journey to outer space and to Pluto. We're doing that this Memorial Day weekend in Brooklyn at the Actors Fund Arts Center, the Skirmerhorn Center. That's a hard word to say.
That is a hard word to say. 3 times fast, that's a good tongue twister.
Right.
Okay, and where can people get tickets to that?
So you would have to go to our website. There's a link to reserve tickets because it's limited to families who have someone on the spectrum or with developmental differences. You have to fill out a form, and once we receive your form, we will contact you based on your availability.
The phones are already ringing for tickets. It's all good. And for those of you who are listening on iTunes, it's on the screen right now. BlueLacesTC.com is the website that you want to go to. And so we should take a break here and show a trailer about Blue Laces. And then when we come back, we're going to talk about a fundraiser that you guys are doing right now with Usborne Books. And I love Usborne, and we'll talk about that. But first, let's take a little look at what the Blue Laces Theater Company looks like. It's amazing.
We are traveling out there, but no need to fear. We've got all of our friends who space explore right here. We So we are going out there to Pluto. What will we find? Oh, find. We are going out there.
Really amazing. So we were just watching the trailer for the Blue Laces Theater Company, and we're here with Melanie Gertzman from the Blue Laces Theater Company. This is an amazing experience for anyone who is on the spectrum, has special needs, and anybody who loves them. What a great experience, though, also for the actors and those of you who are involved. Is this just a really life-affirming thing?
It is, and this has always like been my passion project. I started it when I was in undergrad with a few other Northwestern colleagues. And then when we left there, we came to New York and continued and created a nonprofit theater company. And so it's always been a side project for me. But after doing last year's show, I realized that this is actually what I want to be doing with the rest of my life. So I'm actually going to be going to grad school next year to study the therapeutic benefits of theater for people with autism, because there aren't that many formalized studies happening.
And you're not going to just any mom and pop shop to get this degree. Tell us where you're going.
No, I'm going to Harvard's Graduate School of Education, and I'm getting my master's there. And I'm in a very unique program. It's a specialized studies program where I can design my own curriculum and take classes in any of Harvard's graduate schools. So I can really tailor it to my specific needs and maybe do some partnerships with ART or the theater company there and see if we can do a little Blue Laces like event there. We'll see.
And will you be able to keep some ties with the Blue Lace Theater Company while you're away?
Oh yes, no, I'm going to continue in my role as the executive director for Blue Laces on there, and then come back to the city for our shows. So I'll try to run it remotely, but I think I can do it.
I think you can do it too. If anybody can, you can. Now, we want to make sure that in this end of April Autism Awareness Month that we talk about, you got a little bit of a fundraiser that is really going to be beneficial for Blue Laces Theater Company, but also for anybody who's watching, because you've paired up with one of my favorite book companies. Talk about your partnership with Usborne.
Yes, so Christine Ney is a consultant for Usborne Books, and we knew each other because she's a stage manager at Wicked. She reached out to me because, why is someone calling the...
It's because people are watching and they want to get in touch with you. This is a good thing. It's all good. Don't worry about it. It's a live show. We don't care.
Great. So Christy reached out to me because it's Autism Awareness Month, and she thought it would be a really great idea to do a Blue Laces fundraiser for Usborne, and so she's generously donating all of the proceeds that if you buy through her bookshop, it'll all benefit Blue Laces. Usborne Books, they don't advertise as necessarily for people with special needs, but they're highly interactive, they're multisensory. I think they're just wonderful books, and you know them as well. They're
love them.
Ages, so it just made sense to partner up. And so for this month, if you purchase through her shop, then all proceeds will go to Blue Laces, which is really exciting.
Okay, so how do we find the link to get, do we need to go to Blue Laces and the link is there?
You go to Christy Ney's bookstore, and I believe
We've got it up. Yep, we've got it up on the screen now. It's christiesbookshop.com.
Yes.
Okay, great. So, and these...
with Blue Laces at the end.
Okay, so we absolutely, we love Usborne on this show. These are the books, you guys, that there's something on every page for a kid to do. It makes the book reinforcing for all kids. They're made for kids of all abilities, but to get your child interested in reading, there is no better book company in which to do. My son had a book that was all dinosaurs, and each dinosaur had a different touch feel to it, made different sounds. I love that they're the books that have the little duck on each page. So you read the page, and then you say to your child, find the duck. And they have to look everywhere, scan the page to find the duck. It keeps them involved while they're learning to engage in a book. Amazing, amazing books.
They're wonderful.
And to be able to get those as gifts for the child or children in your life and to benefit Blue Laces Theater Company, there is no better thing that you can do. So we absolutely love that. I know that you've got to get places. That's the way we had to get you early in the show, because you've got places you got to go, things you got to do. But we just think here at Autism Live that what you are doing is amazing. What Blue Laces Theater Company is doing is amazing. I can't wait until you're able to take this across the entire country.
That's the goal, and like everyone at Blue Laces is incredibly dedicated and passionate, and like it's just a joy to work with everyone there. So we're happy, and we hope it'll continue.
Well, I hope so too. When you're ready to come to LA, you let me know. We know people, and thrilled. Thank you for squeezing in the time on a busy day, and give our best to everybody there. And good luck at Harvard.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Really remarkable. So again, you guys want to check out Blue Laces Theater Company. Go to their website and make sure that you get some of those Usborne books. They are absolutely incredible for our kiddos. All right, we're going to take a break, and then I believe we're coming back with PAL Experiences with Adam Isaacs. So stick with us.
Are those your eyes? Is that your smile? I've been looking at you forever, yet I never saw you before. Are these your hands?
As a celebrity, whatever that means, you want to do what you can to give back. The way I've always looked at it, if I'm available, I'm going to be there. And when you get there and you see what folks are doing and the lives that they're touching, how can you not want to continue to be a part of it?
And for the first time, I am looking in your eyes.
What can we all do to make a difference? Not only with trying to find a cure, but to help the children and the families that may not have the resources for these kids.
When you're looking back at me, now I understand what.
And none of us are doing enough, but I think that we're doing as much as we possibly can. Because we all live in society, and the more we can all do to help society, the more it helps all of us.
And for the first time, I am looking in your eyes. And for the first time, I'm seeing who you are. I can't believe how much I see when you're looking back at me. Now I understand what love is. Love is for the first time.
Welcome back to Autism Live. We promised you for this last live show in the studio that we were going out with a bang, and we're just going to have back-to-back fabulous guests with fabulous messages. So now we're going to Phoenix, Arizona, and we have with us on Skype, we've got Adam Isaacs and his wife, Melanie Isaacs. They are from PAL Experiences. We're so thrilled to have you guys here with us on the show. Let's talk a little bit about what PAL Experiences is.
Well, thank you for having us, Shannon. We really appreciate it. So PAL Experiences, what we do is we work with a number of different venues and businesses to help them make their customer experiences more inclusive for folks with autism and related special abilities.
And, you know, when I read a little bit about how this began, and maybe Melanie, you can talk about this, it's really kind of ingenious. How did you come up with this idea?
Well, it all starts, you never know who you're going to meet and how they're going to change you, right? So in a past life, I was just fascinated with fish. So I was studying marine biology and working at an aquarium, and it was a train ride, wearing my aquarium uniform, definitely smelling like mackerel, where a family approached me that I'd never met and started asking me questions about the aquarium. They were clearly really excited about it, so I asked if they liked to visit. And their faces quickly went blank, and they said, we can't go to the aquarium, our son has autism. And for me, that was a really powerful moment, and I was angry. Yeah, everyone should get to go to the aquarium, and both my uncles had muscular dystrophy, so physical accessibility and accommodations were, something I was always aware of. And when I met this boy, I realized, he didn't need a ramp, he needed something else. So that was kind of where we started. We did a pilot with the Shed Aquarium, and invited a bunch of folks out with autism who had never been there, and they had an awesome time. And fast forward, and here we are.
And so right now, you guys have partnered with several organizations locally, the Phoenix Suns, the Children's Museum of Phoenix, the Arizona Diamondbacks, and many more programs. So it becomes a collaboration. Help me so that I know that exactly how this works. A collaboration. You've got guests who want to come to the experience. You work with the people at the experience and with the people who are going to come, and it sounds like there's no lengths to which you will go to make them comfortable. You use digital tools. What else? What do you guys do? Explain the nuts and bolts to us.
Right. So what we're doing is when Melanie started this, it was it was very low tech. This was 7 years ago, and it was done on a very small budget. What we're doing now is bringing it all to a digital platform. So we're providing tools that help guests with autism and other special abilities prepare for these experiences, and we're also providing tools to help the businesses better prepare for these visits. So to be specific, what we do is we take an individual with autism. We do a site visit. So we bring a board certified behavior analyst and a family impacted by autism, and we assess the typical experience. So, for example, for the Diamondbacks, we go to a baseball game, see which sensory elements are potentially challenging, see what accommodations are already in place that are really helpful for families, such as break spots, quiet rooms, that kind of thing. And then what we do is we create a custom 3 to 3.5 minute video. That's a video model. It's sort of like a video social story, and it shows that individual going through an experience. We use that video to create our mobile guide, which we just launched a few weeks ago. And the mobile guide uses behavior chaining and video priming to break down that very complex activity of going to a baseball game or the Children's Museum or a dance lesson. It breaks it down into very concrete tasks. Also within that mobile guide, there is a picture exchange communication system that's customized for the venue, and logistical and navigational support as well.
I got to tell you, this is just so needed and clever and smart. It's interesting to me in the autism community when somebody gets ready to go someplace. Everybody starts posting in different mommy groups about, we're going to this amusement park or we're going to this thing. What are the ins and the outs? What do I need to know? What's going to happen? And our kids are all different and they have different needs. And so, one mom will be on there going, are there going to be loud noises? What do I need to know? Because you can prepare and prepare and prepare, but when it's a venue you haven't been to before, sometimes you don't know what to prepare for, and you don't know how to prepare the individual who's on the autism spectrum. So I just think that this is brilliant.
Thank you.
And so for moving forward, so for the folks, and I want to see you expand this everywhere, but say there are folks who want to go to the Diamondbacks, is it an app that they download to be able to, or how do they get access to the videos?
So right now, we wanted to make it as accessible as possible. So right now, all of the videos, they're available for free, and they always will be at palexperiences.org. It's not an app yet, so you can access it right on our website. You go to palexperiences.org and go to PAL Places. So our vision is to create a vast network of these PAL Places that have gone through this process. They've created these videos with us. They are using the mobile guide, and they are opening their arms to this community and learning more about them. And we think that by bringing tools to both the venues and the guests, that we can bridge this communication and experience gap that exists.
Again, I just think it's so smart for a business to partner with you and say, hey, will you look at it and tell us where you think our things are and make the video? Because it will save them so much time, help promote them in a way as being an autism friendly business, have more guests that come and have a good time and can enjoy the experience with other people without a mishap. I just want to spread you like peanut butter. And get you everywhere. No, because it makes sense. Now, the one thing I'm going to ask you, I don't know if you've already thought about this, does it also give you information about the dietary things that are available at the experience?
Absolutely. So, for example, the Children's Museum that we work with, you can bring your own food. They have a cafe there, but a lot of times families that go may not be aware that you can bring your own food. So we put on our What to Expect page, you can bring your own food, you can bring whatever you want, you just need to eat it in the cafe. So we include that type of information on our What to Expect pages, as well as information about off-peak times, so when it's a little bit less crowded. And we're working with our venue partners to help them provide discounted tickets, discounted admissions, coupons, to encourage folks to go during these off-peak times as well.
Okay, and then you're also working on training to provide for the people in the venue to make them aware. Tell us a little bit about that.
Sure, so the training piece is in its infancy, but we have a framework that we use to help folks provide better customer service to this community. And in the future, we want to put this all, again, onto a digital platform. We want to do this in an e-learning way so that we can scale and really grow this nationally. So, my background is in the restaurant industry, and e-learning and learning management systems are commonly used for training and food safety and customer service. We want to put this onto that sort of a platform and help folks understand how to provide the best service in that way.
Wonderful. I think so. Again, tell people where they can find the information, and you're hoping that more people will then go to businesses that they're aware of and encourage them to be part of a PAL experience. So tell them where they can go to find out more information.
We have our new website, which we're very proud of, www.palexperiences.org. So please check it out. And there's a place within our website to recommend a venue. You can also sign up to be the first to learn about our next PAL place. But our vision is really to find partners with all the places that are fun to go, but also all the places you need to go. So we would love to partner with a grocery store. We'd love to partner with a dentist's office, just making all of those experiences more predictable and more approachable for our families.
It's wonderful. In fact, you guys were named the Nonprofit Business of the Year by Phoenix Mayor's Commission on Disability Issues for 2016. Very impressive. And there we've got pictures of you guys winning your award. That had to have felt great.
Yes, it was a nice validation, and we're really starting this in a city that's very supportive of our work, and we feel very fortunate to be in Phoenix right now, kind of building this model, and our vision, like Adam said, is we can replicate this anywhere. So our goal is really to start talking to these Peter Piper pizzas and kind of these chain venues, because if we make one social story there, it really can work anywhere, and our goal is to help as many folks as possible. So,
which is wonderful. And I know that there are people watching who are looking at you guys, a young couple, and they understand, you went to the aquarium and this struck a note with you and it became a passion, but there's another connection that you have to autism. Can we talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So, I have some family members who are on the spectrum. I've been around it my whole life. Our son is not on the spectrum, but he has some anxiety challenges, sensory processing disorder, and uses our tools all the time. So what we've seen is that we're sort of the way that universal design is used in having wheelchair ramps have helped all kinds of folks who are not in wheelchairs, and also, automatic door openers help parents who are pushing strollers or have their hands full. These tools can be helpful for a variety of folks as well.
Absolutely. I think everybody has anxiety to some level, and some of our kiddos on the spectrum, not on the spectrum, have anxiety, and there's often the unknown causes anxiety. There are people who don't go to places because they don't know what they're going to encounter. So
Right.
I honestly think that not only is this a service right now to the autism community, but that everyone will begin using it, just so that you're in the know. Oh, when I go there, they don't have anything that I can eat, so I need to bring something. Or,
Right.
there will be loud noises, and if that bothers me, I can bring earplugs. Or, there's an area that I can go to if I need to. It's all useful information to everybody.
Right. We're moving towards this, we're kind of diagnoses agnostic. So our tools are built using best practices, ABA techniques, all that science, but really they help, we're finding, a really broad range of, really everybody. So, we're hoping that these are available, and, knowledge is power. So we're kind of putting all of this content, things that are nice to know before you go somewhere new, in one place, so it's easily accessible for anybody.
Well, I think it's remarkable. I think it needs to be in more places. So I hope you have lots of stamina left in you, because Phoenix's plus needs to be everybody's plus. So are you ready to go? Are you ready to go national anytime soon?
We're ready.
We're ready today. So if anyone
All right.
has any recommendations or knows of businesses or other venues throughout the country that may be interested in this, please reach out to us.
And again, the website to go to is
palexperiences.org, and then you can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn.
fabulous. All right, we're gonna ask you guys to stay. We've got to go to a break, but I want to talk to you during the break, and then we're gonna come back with some brief jargon before we go to Bonnie Yates, special education attorney. Stick with us.
Thank you.
We're very excited because we're in the Noah's Ark exhibit, and we're here with Jason Porter. Thank you for taking us on this tour.
Oh, thanks for having us.
So you're going to show me around a little bit and show me some of the secrets of the Noah's Ark exhibit, right?
Yeah, I'd be happy to.
Cool, let's go. So Jason, tell us, this is an amazing space. Why is it so incredible for children?
One of the values of the Skirball Cultural Center is taking care of the earth and one another, and so this idea of repurposing materials that would otherwise be tossed off was a big component to how we designed the galleries. It's based on, certainly the story that everyone knows is the one from the Hebrew Bible, the story of Noah. But in our research, we looked at over 200 flood stories from around the world, and many different cultures have flood stories that have similarities, and the similarities that we identified were these three chapters: the storm, some crazy challenge that comes to your life; an ark, a kind of means of survival, a way for a community to come together to survive; and finally the rainbow, which is this kind of symbol of hope, the second chance to make the world anew.
Love it. All right, let's take a look through, and we're going to talk about some of the learning opportunities that are available here.
We really wanted people to kind of discover what they were supposed to do. For example, this elephant has a gong in the center, and there's a little wheel here that you can turn and see what happens. But there's also some hidden things, like there's a little peephole in this polar bear, so it's kind of a moment where you could talk with your kids about what does it mean that that polar bear in there only has a small piece of ice to live on it, and you could talk about kind of the environmental issues that might be associated with it.
All right, should we go downstairs?
Yeah, let's check out the storm.
So Jason, what do you call this room?
This is called the Storm Gallery. In one side of the gallery, we have a storm wall, which is all sorts of sounds and sight effects to make the storm come to life. But we have this, what we call the load up. It's fairly intuitive. You put animals onto the conveyor belt and you turn the wheel and they get loaded up onto the ark. Except you can't do both at the same time by yourself. It's kind of layered in the doing, the learning that we're really interested in, which is about this notion of working together in order to accomplish something. So, when you first get on the ark, obviously you enter 2 by 2, as the story goes. And So the animals in this first section of the arc, they're not quite sure where they should be. They're a little bit nervous about who to hang out with. The gallery is really organized so that the animals are still in pairs. So we talk a lot about what are the elements of home that you need to survive. And it's really a nice kind of intro into the whole experience of being in a community, learning to be together with people who may or may not be the same as us. This gallery of Noah's Ark is unique, I think, in terms of the way that it was designed, that it offers a huge variety of experiences in a way that really accommodates people of all stripes and spots. So there are more quiet zones like we just left in the move-in day, where you can come into this room where you have a lot of large motor things that are happening, including climbing, and we kind of have nicknamed this the arcade. It's kind of the chapter in the story where they're making new families and they're mixing with other animals that they've befriended. Oh, we have to talk about poop.
We can't do a show without talking about poop.
So, the other fact of life on an ark is that everybody poops. So the challenge is to, clean up.
Okay, so we're in the last room, very cool room. What do we call this room?
We call this the Rainbow Gallery. People really get that this is a place of hope. Sometimes there's an art-making project, that it ends in some sort of inspiration, that people feel like they're inspired to take action in the world and make it a better place.
Thank you so much for showing us everything and telling us about all the wonderful things at the Skirball Center. Love the Skirball. I just went again with my 9-year-old niece, and what a good time that place is. If you come to LA, you really need to go to the Skirball. Reserve your tickets ahead of time. They're for a specific window so that it's not overcrowded and that you've got room to play. And beautiful, beautiful place. All right, we pushed back the jargon of the day because we needed to fit guests in a certain way. Talk about putting a puzzle piece together. So we're coming to it a little bit late, but we do like to on Thursdays do the jargon of the day. This is when we take on one word, one phrase, one acronym, and we try to figure out what are those experts talking about. What does it have to do with us? What does it mean to us? Can it save me time and money? Is always my go-to at the end. So today's jargon term. Apparently, we've never done this before. What were we thinking? Jargon term today is yeast overgrowth. If you're dealing with autism, it's very likely that at some point this will be brought up. It's not something that happens to every person, but I will tell you, talk about bang for your buck. If you have someone who's dealing with yeast overgrowth and you are able to deal with it effectively, it can have a huge effect on the progress that you're able to make with other treatments. So what is it? What is yeast overgrowth? Let's take a look at our actual definition. Yeast overgrowth is an unbalance or an imbalance between good bacteria and bad bacteria in the gut, generally brought on by immune dysfunction or gastrointestinal distress. Okay, moving on to our working definition, making it a little bit easier for us, is a lack of the good bacteria in the gut, and it creates health and behavioral issues. So let's talk about what yeast overgrowth may look like. And it takes many different, we talk about yeast and everybody thinks we're talking about a vaginal yeast thing. That is not necessarily the case. In fact, yeast can sprout in all kinds of places. It can sprout in the cricks of joints, right? You can see a yeast outbreak behind knees and in the crease of an elbow. You can see it in some kids in thrush in their mouth. And we see it behaviorally. For those of you who write in sometimes and say, my kid acts like they're drunk sometimes, and they get these hysterical laughter fits, and I don't know what that is. It may be other things, but there's a potential that it could be yeast overgrowth. Probably in your life what it's like to be a little bit tipsy. That is one of the manifestations, one of the many manifestations of a yeast overgrowth. It can present itself in other ways to other kids. My son suffered from yeast overgrowth when he was little, and it was fascinating because the first thing that I would notice, I loved the smell of his head. The smell of his head smelled like there was a bread factory that had been close to my house when I was growing up as a kid, and I would smell his head and it smelled like fresh baked buns, and I would just go, isn't that the best smell? Had no idea that, well, that was yeast coming off of his head that I was smelling. Yeast, when it's baking and warm, has a luscious, luscious smell to it. I used to, I'm not a feet person, but there's something about babies' feet. That babies' feet are so precious, right? And I would take my son's sock off, and we would do this whole routine where I would smell his foot and I would go, woo, and do that. And he would laugh and he would just think that was hilarious. But the truth is that they smelled sweet and yeasty, not stinky at all, because he was putting out some serious, serious yeast. And some of our kids do. There are all these microbes that are in our, and I'm not a scientist, but that are in our body. We're an ecosystem onto ourselves. And if one thing gets out of whack, boy, it can throw a bunch of other things off. And what we see in kids with autism is their ability to concentrate and focus. It's like they're drunk. How can they concentrate? Imagine if I was trying to teach you calculus and you were drunk. It wouldn't go well, right? And you wouldn't retain it. You could maybe in the minute repeat something, but you wouldn't retain it the next day. So when we're trying to teach our kids how to talk, we're trying to teach them, how to do things that they want to know how to do, but we're going through yeast overgrowth. It can be really, really difficult. It's important to note that yeast is a living substance, right? And that you're always going to have yeast in your system, and we don't want to decimate it to the point where it's gone. That would tip the balance the other way, right? But we want to make sure that yeast doesn't get to this overgrowth point. We want to keep that balance, and every day it's a balance. So important to realize that yeast feeds on sugar. Sugar is what keeps it alive. If you've ever eaten a bunch of sugar over a period of time and then said, that's it, whether it's for Lent or a diet or whatever, I'm cutting sugar out of my diet. What happens to you in the next 2 days when you go, boom, no sugar? You get a headache and you feel like, puh, right? That's called yeast die-off. Because yeast is this thing, think about when you make bread and it grows and it grows and it grows, right? It's a living substance and it tries to protect its life. And when you cut off its food supply, which is sugar, it goes, no, I don't want to die. And it tries really hard. It does an extinction burst. It goes, no, I'm going to try really hard. And I'm going to make things painful before it starts to shrink back. And then you start to feel better and go, oh, I don't feel so tired all the time. And I don't feel so thirsty all the time. And I don't feel crabby. And, because that's the yeast working on you. Imagine what it's doing to a 2-year-old, a 3-year-old, a 4-year-old. So there are many different protocols that are out there for severe yeast overgrowth. Some of our kids need to go on medication. Some of our kids, it can be taking sugar out of the diet, but either way, if you have a kid that it has severe and you need to go to a doctor and do some medication to get the yeast overgrowth in balance, afterwards, you're going to have to monitor how much sugar, because too much sugar gets in the diet, the yeast will go back up. So yeast overgrowth is a conversation to be had. And there are lots of places to search. We've had doctors before talking about yeast on the show. We can do it again. Write to us if you want to know more about yeast, and I'll line up some guests for it. But I will tell you that we went through several different iterations of dealing with yeast overgrowth with my son. And every time that we were able to get the yeast back, we had massive, massive progress that was made. Absolutely amazing. So this is definitely, if you're having symptoms of you're seeing some funky smells from your child that aren't necessarily bad smells, if you're getting some hysterical laughter, I called my son the drunk elf. He would, walk like a drunk and he would hit the wall, and he would get crabby when you asked him to do something because a drunk doesn't want to be taken away from what they're doing, right? 3-year-old, and you'd smell his breath and he'd smell like brandy. We got the yeast under control and he could talk. And his ABA skyrocketed him to gain skills at a rate that was just amazing. Yeast overgrowth, something to know. Okay, I just want to quickly, we're running out of time, and Samantha is reminding me, and I do hear you, Samantha. She's like, look, we got to do this. And we want to get to Bonnie. But on to our question of the day. Want to know, when do you feel best? Is there a type of day that you feel best? Is there certain things that you eat that you feel best? Because these are the things that we want to be looking at in ourselves and in our kids to maximize. So write into us and tell us, when do you feel best? And then our topic, I got to find a couple of minutes to talk about this a little bit later on, because there's a lot going on here as we end April, and somebody dragged me into it, talking about effective treatment. Every April, we see people come out of the woodwork to talk about ABA and why they have a bone to pick with ABA. I want to talk about that. I know that those of you watching the show know where I stand on this. ABA done right is amazingly effective. It's been proven scientifically to be effective, and it's good for our kids, and it's not torture, but it has to be done right. Maybe we'll get a chance to talk about that later. Okay, we gotta go to break, because we got Bonnie Yates waiting to get on to talk about IEPs. It's going to be Legal Matters with Bonnie Yates up next.
So we're going to do down dog next. So with down dog, there are several different ways that you can do it, and I want to show you first and then help you with yours so that we can work on what feels good for you, okay? All right, because there's no right way to do it. It's more about what your body likes, all right? So for me, what I'm going to do is start off with my hands at the top of my mat, my headlights. My fingers are aiming towards the top of my mat, and then I'm going to tuck my toes, and then my head is also going to drop, and I'm going to look between my toes. Okay. And my body should be, or hopefully, like an A shape.
Or V.
Or V, yes.
Upside down V.
Yep. And so if your quads are tight or your hamstrings are tight, you might need to bend your knees a little bit.
Send it to you.
Or if your shoulders are a little strained or a little tight, remember to push in through your feet. But also sometimes what feels really good is going down on your forearms, like this. You can actually start out this way instead, it's a little easier. So your forearms rest on the floor. You still tuck your toes, and then you're still looking between your toes. But rather than being on your hands then, your weight's along your hands and your forearms. Okay? All right. So, now it's your turn. Okay. So, yep. You're gonna do on your hands? Okay, yep. So your fingers are facing the front of the mat. Or are you doing forearms? Forearms? Okay, there we go. Wow, you're very bendy. Very nice. And your gaze is right here between your toes. Excellent. Very nice, Jem. Wow. Awesome. Feet are a nice distance apart. How does that feel?
Okay.
Awesome. You want to come down? Excellent. Good.
Welcome back to Autism Live. So excited and proud that we have Bonnie Yates joining us via Skype. Bonnie is a special education attorney with Hear Ji Chow. She is coming to us remotely, though, today. And let's talk first a little bit about Hear Ji Chow, Bonnie, and how people can find out more and connect with that law firm.
Well, they have a website, and I keep telling myself that I better get it together and give it on the air. But if you look up HIRJI and CHAU in Culver City, you'll find the website. There's interesting stuff on the website. But we're a Culver City-based law firm, and I'm just going to fold this into the disclaimer.
Yes.
We're answering questions per California law because that's where we're licensed, and I am also licensed to practice in the federal courts, and IDEA is sort of a 50-state federal statute. So we answer questions either federally or under California law. So the disclaimer is these are general answers to general questions. If you have a specific special education question, you should get a consultation with an attorney who will actually be able to really focus in on your particular problem. And in general, you know, these are just kind of like the best answers we can give, given that this is sort of a national or worldwide forum. But we're getting really good questions from everybody,
Yes.
and I'm sure everybody's like me. You're running around like a chicken with your head cut off because there's only so many days left till IEP season is over. So with that, we got some really good questions, and I might actually throw questions back at everybody who's listening if I have questions about your questions, and then you could write back in. So the first
And by
one,
the way, we love that, Bonnie. Feel free to ask questions.
all right, okay. So the first question says, hi, thank you for your work and advice. Does LAUSD allow replacing academic classes? For example, taking 2 science classes instead of literature. Thank you. Well, the question's confusing because literature is an academic class. I think what the question is, does LAUSD let parents have curricular choice and how much and at what stage of things? And so I'm going to ask the questioner to specify the grade that the student is in. That will be helpful. I don't know how, honestly, I don't know how rigidly they apply the rules and whether it's school to school or there's really broader LAUSD policy. So I'm going to try to look for next week. I'll try to find out more. But one of the things that I think the Autism Live audience has been really surprised to hear is that their parents don't really have that much say in, for example, signing the student out early for school. Okay, that everybody was sort of from school on a regular basis to go to a therapy. Everybody was sort of shocked that it was supposed to be an IEP team decision. They were, not expecting that. They didn't see why it had to be that way when they were acting in the best interest of their child. So, what LAUSD policy is always a good question. Sometimes, you might as well throw up a bunch of sticks and see how they land because LAUSD is not consistent in its policies. But we're going to see if we can get some more information about that next week.
But it would be helpful to you to know the age of the student.
The age, the grade, even potentially what school. And also, does mom feel that the student is really strong in science and weak in literature, and so she doesn't want the student to have literature class because science is just a preferred class? If she's trying to opt out for a semester, that's one thing. But is she saying, can my son graduate without ever doing classes that involve literature? The answer to that would be no. So not sure what more we can do with that one.
Okay.
Right now. Okay. Hello. My son has autism. He also has an IEP. I'm moving from Tennessee to Texas. Where do I begin with the transition in order to have a much smoother start next school semester, thus this coming fall? Okay, that is a very good question. It's a tough question because these transitions are routinely botched. The way it works is if you come from out of the state, the district doesn't have to honor your IEP one iota. They can start all over with an assessment and a whole new IEP. But from what I hear, as a practical matter, they tend to take the existing IEP and implement it for 30 days as closely as they can while they're developing the new IEP or doing assessments. But here's your problem. There's always this issue of you need an assessment so that the IEP can be in place by the first day of school, but practically you can't trigger enrollment and a referral to special education until you've moved into the house and you've showed proof of residency and stuff like that. So the question is really, what do you do to let them know you're going to be there? And I think that you assume that they're going to botch the transition and you're going to document it. So you find out who the special ed coordinator is, the superintendent or somebody, and you send them a letter by very secure mail, and you say, hello, my name is Mrs. So-and-so. I have a son with autism and also an IEP. He is, 6. I'm enclosing a copy of his, most recent assessment and his current IEP. We will be moving into the district in the summer of 2017. I understand that legally I'm entitled to have an IEP in place by the first day of school. That's why I'm sending you these materials. Please feel free to follow up with me as soon as you'd like so that we can ensure a smooth transition and that there will be an IEP in place on the first day of school. Signed, Happy Mom. Because what happens is there's nobody around in the summer, especially in August. That's the doldrums. So right as you're getting there and getting ready to go to school, they are in their biggest shutdown mode with everybody as much on vacation as they can possibly be. Right, Shannon?
Absolutely.
That's the feel of it. So they're probably going to botch the transition, and then you're going to, march in there on the first day of school and say, hey, where's my, my placement? And at that point, if they don't have something in place for you, that would be a very good time to get a lawyer involved. That's a violation. They have to have an IEP in place for the first day of school. And there is, the only other thing you could do would actually be move there, have one parent and the child move there early. So you'd have more ability to do things on the ground. But it's hard. And, I've had, even like within the state, I had a case where the child moved from Orange County to Palo Alto, and we were writing them letters. I mean, we were honestly really setting them up. We were writing them letters in the summer. Hi, we're here. We haven't heard from you. We're concerned. These are his needs. Anyway, that case got settled, So that's, I
But you got to massage it, I think is what you're saying. Nancy Allspaw Jackson always says you got to be a dog on a pork chop.
Okay, or maybe a dog on Kobe or something.
Yeah.
Beef.
But
Okay.
so you're going to have to massage it is what I'm hearing.
You're
Okay.
definitely going to have to massage away. Okay, our school locks and only gives us the final IEP. Okay, that is only part of the question, but it's a brilliant beginning, because this whole thing about locking the IEP or not locking the IEP, there's nothing in idea about locking an IEP. There's nothing in idea about Welligent. There's nothing in idea about SACE, okay? The district locks and only gives us the final IEP. We're told a draft is unavailable. This is different from our previous school, I bet. The administrator is the only person typing and seeing the screen of what is typed. Thank you. Well, okay, so what's the concern? Did they say some stuff that was helpful that's in the draft phase of things that's now not making its way into the written IEP document that's the final document? That problem could be managed nicely with an audio recording, although that's rather inefficient. The district doesn't have an obligation to give you draft IEP document necessarily. They could do everything orally, but when they come in, don't they hand you a draft document? If they don't, they're doing that sneaky thing of they're reading from their draft and you're like twiddling your fingers because you don't know what they're looking at. You need to explain to them that you need a copy of whatever they're looking at, and if the tape if the audio is recording, it's hard to imagine that they're going to give you pushback on that. Yeah, LAUSD does it exactly backwards of that. LAUSD sends you home with a draft IEP that's not a final document, so that's not legal. So actually, I think what's happening is this district is actually doing things the right way, which is that they're sending you home with a final document that's a final offer that you can rely on, as distinct from like the LAUSD situation where if you have an IEP and it says draft splashed all over the front, that's one nice issue in your due process hearing request when you get there, which is district never made a final specific written offer of placement. So
but this idea of it being locked, Bonnie, I think sometimes that suggests to us as parents, they've given us a locked document, so if we go, oh, I disagree with this, then there's nothing to be done. So when they say locked, it doesn't mean that?
That I think folds nicely into another question which we had on the same day, which is, when I get my IEP document back, may I add some kind of addendum to it, or am I limited to the little tiny 1-inch square box on page 19 of the document? So the way you deal with a locked IEP, or for that matter, any IEP that you want to comment on, is you do what we call an IEP response. And if people really wanted to see what one looked like, we could redact one. But we basically go through the document, and where the parent's signature is on the IEP itself, we write, please, big asterisk, please see attached letter of blah, blah, blah date. And then we begin writing a letter. Dear IEP team, student consents to eligibility under autism. However, student thinks district was wrong in not offering a second eligibility category of specific learning disability. Student consents, student believes that the present levels of performance as reported at the IEP team meeting were inaccurate with respect to executive functioning. With respect to goals and objectives, the district failed to write a goal in the area of attention. We think this was an oversight. As to the services, we think the services are appropriate, but the district should have added an additional 30 minutes a week of individual speech therapy. And then we usually sign off by saying, we consent to implementation of the IEP, but we don't think it's a free, appropriate public education. And then we say, could, please attach a copy of this document to the last page of the IEP. And again, if that's all in writing, they're not going to be able to avoid dealing with that document. So does that make sense?
It does. What's the end game for that document? So if you've agreed to implement the IEP as written, but you have said that you don't think it's an offer of free, appropriate public education,
yeah,
what happens then?
Well, you're kind of laying the groundwork, I think, for later if you are going to do process. I actually was thinking this morning while I was getting ready for the program about how I want to do this case study in the next couple of weeks, starting with this family's first contact with the district where they tried to get him made eligible, and instead he was made, he was given a 504 plan. So I've been working on this family's due process all week, and they've been at this since 2012. So in September of 2016, there was an IEP meeting where a lot of stuff happened that I thought was wrong. And it was interesting to me because I went back and I looked at my IEP response, and it kind of reminded me of what my objections were, and it was helpful. So, I think that the end game maybe for us is different because, we want to be able to go back and say, look, we pointed out to you in September 2016 that the placement was inappropriate. Here's what we said. So reimbursement for the placement is proper because you've known about this in September.
Okay, so it doesn't necessarily mean that for that IEP that you're going to do process, but you're, because see, I love this. There was a time when there was assessment done for my son that I was fine with the services. So I didn't like the assessment, but I didn't do anything about it. If I had realized that I could have said, I disagree with this and had it in his record, that would have made me happy.
Right. So that's sort of the idea is you're not sure whether you're going to object in the future, but if you do, we have a different burden. When we file for due process, we have to, convey the impression that we've done everything we could in a timely fashion to notify the district about our concerns, so they can't come back and say, well, if we'd known that you wanted this, we would have given it to you, so you're not entitled to fees for your workup on that particular issue. So, that's some of the reason, but also for us, students have multiple IEPs, and if you don't have to, if you aren't going to file for due process for a year, there might be 3 IEPs, and you will find it's easier to go back to them and remember what's happening if you've taken good notes and also, provided the district with a response.
Okay, great.
So anyway, that's.
But so again, for people who are just tuning in, if you're agreeing to the services, but there are other issues, you can put an asterisk after the parent's signature on the signature page and say, see attached letter. And then you can attach a letter that says what your issues are, and it becomes part of the legal document.
It does. It does.
Love that. Bonnie, that's like a goodie.
It is okay, because I had another goodie for today, but I forgot what it was.
Okay, well that's a goodie. Now, can we? It's a goodie. So can we go on to this next big question, which is
Intimidating question.
It's
Sure.
intimidating to me, and I got overwhelmed. And I do have a little extra information because I've talked a little bit to Mom, back and forth a little bit. Do you want me to read it, or do you want to read it?
I would love for you to read it, and I'm going to grab water really fast.
Okay. So Mom wrote in on Facebook and said, before the Thursday Autism Live session, I have a question as it relates to NPS options and flexible schedules. I have been presented with NPS for my son who has had behavior spikes in high school. He's in his first year. He has been missing 3 hours of school due to intensive communication therapy at my cost, from the mom's point of view, not mine, to help with communication. I have his doctor recommendation as to medical necessity, but his current placement wants to only offer their recommended service 8 to 3 with 30 minutes per week push-in speech and no possibility of flex hour schedule. Now, before I go about NPS, I want to know, can I recommend push-in ABA support and modification to speech offering given the significant deficits? Got into a deep discussion with a speech therapist because they say, get ready for it, they cannot test IQ for him because he's African American. So they can only assess what he may need speech therapy, even though they clearly say he has a language processing disorder. Can I or should I be ready to accept the NPS or come prepared with my recommendation? And if I disagree, go to arbitration, or what's the next step for getting us to an agreement on services and thanks? And apparently she went on to tell me that they have suspended him at least 7 to 8 times now.
Confusing. That's confusing.
And that he has been suspended, and I asked her specifically, is that in-school suspension or home? She said it's home. I also asked, did he, because we have a speech delay deficit diagnosis, but he also qualifies under, he has a diagnosis of autism and qualifies for services under autism. I did ask her about that. My brain went poof when I saw that they were saying that they could not IQ test him because he's African American. I understand now more, but I still don't get it. So first of all, can you tell our audience who, because I don't even remember, what is NPS? That's non-public school?
Oh, NPS is non-public school. So what she really wants, if you just back up, she's got several parts to the question.
Yeah.
So she really doesn't want, it sounds like, non-public school. She wants instead a more flexible schedule where she can take him out and do these other things that she thinks are therapeutic for him. Now, when I said that the district got to decide this, that doesn't mean that there shouldn't be a discussion. Right. And so, I mean, I think it is an IEP team question. She can present to the IEP team her thoughts about, why she wants to do this way. And it sounds as if there's a cost argument, too, that it's going to cost the district less if he stays in public school. Now, query whether they are really ready for him to go to non-public school, and they're actually offering non-public school because in their view he's become a behavior problem. Since she doesn't tell us anything about the bases for the suspension, we don't really know exactly what's going on, but we'll assume it's a manifestation of his disability. But sometimes when students become assaultive or dangerous, the district then and only then is willing to look at non-public school. So she would have an IEP team meeting, and she would present to the IEP team why she wanted this flexible schedule, and then the team would decide. And if she feels really strongly about this and the district says no, that's when you can have a due process hearing, or you can go to alternative dispute resolution, or some people call it informal dispute resolution. But it is not out of the question to do it in the way she's describing. Now, with respect to the suspensions, in California, you can't have more than 10 consecutive days of suspension, and you can't have more than 20 in a school year. At the point that starts happening, it's a change of placement without an IEP meeting, and that's violative of due process. So we probably need some information about exactly what's causing him to be suspended, and how it relates to the need for the flexible schedule. So the IQ testing issue is interesting. There was basically a case, Larry P. versus, I think, I can't remember whether it was against LUSD or it was against Wilson Riles, who was like the state superintendent of education at that time. But people said that it was discriminatory for African American students to be IQ tested because they had established statistically that they don't do well on standardized testing. And so LAUSD actually extended this one step farther, which is they don't IQ test for any student, at least, formal IQ test. But there are like lots of other cognitive measures that districts or private assessors can use. So even if they're not administering a Stanford Binet IQ test, they do administer, and they have to administer tests that look at cognitive functioning. So I'm not really entirely clear. Is the speech therapist saying it would really help me to plan my lessons for student if I knew what student's IQ was? I mean, why is this even coming up with the speech therapist, Shannon?
Well, I think that that's interesting, but to me, the way I'm looking at it, and I did get more information from Mom that I'm trying to have come up, but I'm having internet issues. It seems like in this instance, Mom is asking for more services. School is saying, well, the way I read it, school is saying, we can't qualify him under this because we can't test him for IQ. And when
qualify for what, Shannon? What qualify him under what?
For more, I think that she's wanting to have. She's saying that he needs to qualify to be able to leave school and have a flexible schedule to have those more intensive communication services, because all they've offered him is 30 minutes of a push-in for speech, and she's saying he's got a severe communication issue that is causing him to be suspended, and they're saying they won't give him more services or accommodate his flexible schedule because they can't verify a need for it, because they can't test him for IQ because he's African American. Now, when I looked it up, it seems like to me that the Larry P. law was put into place because so many kids who were African American were being misdiagnosed as needing special education services and inappropriately put in special education. This seems like the flip to me, that Mom is trying to say that he qualifies for more services, and they're using that law against her to say, we don't know because we can't test him. And that can't be right, can it?
Well, it's funny, there's a lot of different directions in which she could go. I don't really understand why the speech therapist doesn't have other instruments that the speech therapist could use to probe the speech issue. But if what is really needed is an IQ test, and the district refuses to perform an IQ test, that's a perfect situation, I think, for the parent to get some help and get an independent educational evaluation to deal with this question of cognition. I didn't say this at the beginning of the show because we started off a little differently than we normally do. But, that's the kind of parent, if they want some additional help, we would, take a look at what's going on and see if we could assist them, because we do, basically almost anyone that contacts us, if they need an intake, we'll, provide that free of charge because we think that's really important. So she's got a lot of different things going on. She's got disciplinary issues going on. She's got an IQ question. One of the interesting things about Larry P. is that the district in some instances has said, well, we can't IQ test, but we can hire or contract with an outside contractor, and that person can IQ test. So there's definitely ways to work around this. If there's questions about the IQ testing, we could talk about it more next week. But yeah, Larry P. was supposed to, as you said, it wasn't supposed to be being used against students. It was supposed to be being used to help students. So it's not helping in this case.
Not in this case. This was just so shocking to me. I couldn't even get my head wrapped around it. But I've learned a lot in the process. I haven't learned enough. But so Bonnie, if this anybody who's watching the show wants to reach out because they would like to do an intake at Hirji and Chow, what's the best way for them to connect with you?
Now that is a very wise question to be asking me. What if I give you my email address, and we'll see whether we can make this work or not. And I'll just tell everybody that it's IEP season, so that's sort of the limiting factor. We can't really assist you if you're outside of Southern California.
I have your website. Do you want me to, is that the easier one to give? I've got it here.
Well, I'm going to give my email address, but I want to tell people if you're in Northern California or you're in another state, you know, I'd refer you to copa.net, COPAA.net for a little.
Oh, and we're just now having her break up right there. You're frozen, Bonnie.
I'm frozen?
You're frozen. So say the COPA address again, because I do think that this mom is in Northern California.
Okay, it's COPAA.net, and there is a list of attorneys in Northern California on that list.
Okay.
And then my email address is Bonnie, my first name, at, and then it's RKH, so like Rose, Kitten, House, so rkhlawoffice.com. And the only other thing I would tell people is it's busy, so we're trying to get to everybody because we don't want people to lose time over the summer. And you know, everybody's scrambling at the last minute to get their questions answered, which is perfectly understandable. So
okay. But I do want to give people the website address, which is lawyer4children.com, which is a lovely, lovely website. Lawyer4children.com. And that's another way that you can look up and find out information about law offices of Hirji and Chow. But as Bonnie said, it's the busy season, so you must, if you're calling, be aware that you'll need to be patient. It's like tax time for accountants.
not that bad. Okay, so Shannon, there's a couple more questions. Do they go over to next week?
They're going to need to go over to next week. Unfortunately,
So next week we're going to talk about those questions, Larry P. and due process.
Yes. Oh, the fun of due process.
Exactly.
All right. Thank you so much, Bonnie. We just adore you. And at some point, I got to put together all the nice things that people say about you and send them to you, because I don't take the time to send you when they just say thank you, Bonnie, and I'm learning so much. But those comments are coming in too.
You do, and everybody knows how social reinforcers work. So you guys are lovely. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a great weekend.
Okay.
Bye-bye. The wonderful Bonnie Yates. Okay, we're going to take a break, and then we're going to come back with a fabulous interview with Kamina Ballard Dawkins. This is pre-taped. It's a short interview. It's pre-taped because she needed to be in Washington, D.C. today because she's a World Autism Ambassador. So that's coming up, and then we're going to come back and we're going to talk a little bit about effective treatment. And no, for our viewer who says, is it me that dragged you into this? No, it wasn't you that dragged me into this. It was others. But that's okay. So every once in a while we got to address things. We're going to talk about effective treatment and how, in fact, I did get dragged into it. So stick with us. Back after this message with Kamina Ballard Dawkins. Welcome back to Autism Live. We have with us live in the studio a remarkable young woman. I enjoy you so much. It's Kamina Ballard Dawson. She's been on the show before. She is, you have a light about you. Let's say that. And I feel like you're on a mission, and it's a mission that I feel like is a sister mission to a lot of the missions that a lot of other people are on. But you had recently emailed me and told me some of the things that you had going on and some of the places you'd been like, oh, the places you will go, kind of Dr. Seuss thing, and we said we got to have you on. There's still more places that you're about to go, so maybe we can talk about all of that. So first, let's start with, what have you been up to lately?
Wow. So that is the $1,000,000 question for me, as always. And it's such a pleasure to be back here on your show. And everything you said is true. Sister Missions is starting to become my middle name. And Dr. Seuss's birthday is the same day as mine, March 2nd. So Pisces rules.
There we go.
But I wanted to let you know some great news that I have a new title, and it is World Autism Ambassador.
World Autism Ambassador.
Yes.
That's a pretty special title.
It is. I mean, I'm just loving this new adventure that I've been on. So for Light It Up Blue, for Autism Awareness Month, I've had the pleasure of my sister and I, Kalila, to go to Cairo, Egypt, and to share our story and our parent perspective, and also to perform for some children with our music that we do, and to, most of all, celebrate Light It Up Blue by helping to light up the Sphinx and the Great Pyramid Complex.
Like?
It was crazy. I mean, I know today is the day I'm going to show my light and just let it shine full on, because what was able to happen there, for I lighted up blue for all the monuments that were lit up there, because it was over, I don't want anybody to misquote me, but there was quite a few. It wasn't just like the one or two. We had a live streaming coverage and footage of when the media were taking pictures of all the monuments that had been lit up in Cairo. Wow. And so I believe they hold the record there in Cairo, Egypt, for lighting up the most monuments on that particular day. Wow. So World Autism Awareness Day is a blessed event there, and everyone is in support. And Kalila and I, as K-Divas and as autism ambassadors and as autism moms, we were so just delighted to take part in that.
It's amazing. And so you guys, when you perform, you're the K-Divas.
We're K-Divas, yes.
Which is wonderful. And it's your twin sister, correct?
It is my twin sister. And so this is a bit of a, I guess, a coming out for her as well, because, you know, the last time we spoke, her son had really just been diagnosed.
Yes.
And he's high functioning, and he's now fully verbal.
Oh,
so and that's such a success, and we're sharing our successes, and so I think that's a big one. Some people take that for granted, that on the outside world, but in the autism world, that's a big thing, hearing your son say mama. Yes. And so I giving all of that credit to my sister Kalila as being really an autism mom she's jumped in with both feet.
Well, how could she not? Because you'd already set a bar for her, right? And I know I have twin nieces, and I know that there is twin, competitiveness, so she had to.
I mean,
but what a good thing for her. What a good thing for her, because now she has a boy who's speaking and high functioning, and so wonderful that you were there for her, and it already, cut a swath through the path of what had to happen.
And I will admit to that, but the competitiveness I will not admit to. I want to say that I strongly encouraged her. I'm just kidding. I threw that in there for her.
So you were in Cairo on the day.
Yes, and so we were in Cairo on the actual day. And basically, I want to back up and say how we got there.
Okay.
So the last time I was on your show, we spoke about Tembisa, which is located in Africa, and there is ongoing conversations between myself and the country of Ghana and the country of South Africa. Yeah. Thanks to your inspiration there, I did make a connection, but this time we were able to make a connection to Cairo, Egypt, to the Egyptian Autistic Society under the founder Dalia Soliman, who is an educational psychologist. But ironically enough, though, she's not the parent of a child with autism. So the parent perspective is something that she was interested in finding. And so originally we were there to take a spiritual trip. Okay. I am a very spiritual person.
Yes.
Less religious, but more spiritual, and just believing in just bringing out the divine in all of us, and inspiring that. Thus, the light that I try to inspire others to have when I say to them, shine on. Yeah. But during that spiritual pilgrimage, where my sister and I totally got activated, but I reached out to the Egyptian Autistic Society and found out that Dalia she's not only a part of that and the founder of that, but she had started a clinic, which is in a home setting, called Launch Egypt.
Okay.
And Launch Egypt is where she delivers all of the care for some very blessed children, because they have over 1 million children with autism that is really undiagnosed. They may have been misdiagnosed, and the ones that are diagnosed get the opportunity to come to this clinic setting. and receive services. So we saw, and there was a beautiful OT gym, and it's much like a school. And this lady's just doing her thing. So Dahlia welcomed us in for the specific event, but it was not only that, we were able to be on a sort of a press tour to be able to then promote the awareness of the event for the Light It Up Blue initiative. So we were able to visit Nile FM, which is their English speaking radio there, because the country is Arabic English, and the English speaking radio station there, we just had such a great time interviewing with her and being able to share about our music, about K Divas. So we would be able to, all my lives converged on one market there.
Right.
I got to be myself, an autism mom, and I also got to be
a performer,
an
a
artist,
spiritual person who's,
all of these things were in effect.
Amazing.
And then on the actual day, April 2nd, we were able to take part in I'm skipping something. So at the actual center launch Egypt, we were able to be on live TV. I hope I'm saying that correct. On live TV, which we were able to do a TV spot that was heavily promoted with us singing to the children. And what we were doing, we're giving an example about how music is so powerful in the lives of children with autism. So I got to be everything, and I was just like, I was inspired. But you know how hard it is to sing to a group of children who want to get up and move. And so I found myself almost like mothering at the same time. Like, hey, you sit down.
Yes.
Okay, good. Giving everybody high fives as we were actually performing this song. Hardest thing ever to do.
Wow.
Harder than performing in front of 50,000 people.
Right.
But well received.
Yes.
The children sang along, and it was very fulfilling. So back to the actual day. We all went to this beautiful press conference sponsored by Momentum Egypt, and it was not, I want to say red carpet, but red carpet-ish, but all the dignitaries were there, right. The government, who is totally in alliance with Dahlia Soliman. And so we were able to participate in the actual press conference, where we were able to see live performances by children on the spectrum, and I got to be a guest and not have to work too hard that day. But the beauty of their initiative there was more to autism. Thus the hashtags were like more to autism, and I just really, I felt that.
Yeah.
That was something that for my daughter, who's now 14, who's coming into her own self-advocacy, and she makes arts and crafts, and she has a new website, business that's coming out, it struck home with me.
Wow.
To see, that Kina could be, that there was more to autism.
Yes. I love this hashtag, more to autism, because it can mean so many different things. They're all positive.
Yes, they are. And they're all positive. And what we were doing there, just so that I say this out loud, it's more probably for me than the viewers, but just as much, is that not only is there more to autism, but there's more to life, and this trip has taught me to cherish how just very blessed we are in this country. And we fight and maybe nitpick about services and interventions and getting this and getting that, but to see people in a country who are worried about the basic necessities of a life, food, shelter, clothing, water, a safe place to live, right. Where they've recently gone through a revolution there, what the citizens call a revolution there, and what I would flat out call war.
Yeah.
That
it puts it in perspective.
It puts it in perspective.
Yeah.
How ultimately just lucky and blessed that we are.
Yes.
And so it always humbles me to be a part of a project and a world project like that. And I will continue to do it for as long as this is my fight, which is forever, because I'm a mom and an aunt and
a World Autism Ambassador.
Yes, ma'am.
That's a pretty...
Sported proud.
I want to know, do you have a special uniform for that with a special coat of arms and medals? And because it sounds like you get a cool jacket.
I shall make a cool jacket, but if
it has to have epaulets on it. I'm picturing epaulets.
I think I'll do a maybe shout out to Beyonce. Maybe I'll get my cool looking performer jackets in. But this was a gift, and so I sport it proud in the meantime. So this is what I'm going to do here, and we'll do that. But just I once again want to thank you for being letting me be on the show and inspiring me to reach across the world, because this is really a world issue.
It is a world issue.
In Autism Awareness Month, people know of autism, but they don't know what it actually is. You know what I mean? Like, they don't know what is autism, how it presents itself. And so I want to kind of break some of those stereotypes down and make sure that I bring it home. So all of the things that I'm doing here, I'm able to go over to other countries and maybe share my perspective and give them some tips and pointers about parent education, and just to also just empower the people.
Absolutely.
Empower the parents, because the parents are the power. They're the constant who have to be there, whether there's services, interventions, therapies, medication, or anything.
Kamina's taking us to church.
I am.
That's right. So, this is, part and parcel of what you've been doing, but you've got other stuff coming up too. Tell us where you're off to next.
Wow. She always gets me with these. I don't really like to talk about myself a lot, believe it or not. I like to talk about the cause. But you got a lot to share. So I'm on my way to Capitol Hill. And of course, I wouldn't be a proper World Autism Ambassador without taking it to my own government and really just being a part of the solutions that shall be created there. And I hope I choose.
Amen. I mean, because that's positive assumptive, and that's what we need.
And that's what I'm here for, to make sure that it's not just, and I have such a perspective now that, I'm on fire.
That's right.
So I want to take that fire where it counts. And so at the end of this month, I will be on Capitol Hill speaking to our Congress people, women, men.
Yes.
To make sure that they are aware of what our concerns are and how important these things are. In my own life, I always have a solemn moment where I speak about my daughter being in residential, and that is absolutely one of my issues and topics, I should say, topics to speak about, which is, we have a aging population of children on the spectrum who are going to be adults. Yeah. So I know that we've been talking about transition a lot, but what about housing for them? What about adult care and medical homes? What about comorbidities such as mental health and people who are able, and doctors and clinicians who are able to treat a comorbidity, autism, with mental health issues? Yeah. So we're really getting into it. Yes, I'm taking you to church, and I'm going to continue to preach, I want to say. But from my perspective, we'll do it in a nice way, and I'll always be positive.
And I love that. So if people are watching and they go, okay, this woman is on fire, and it's the fire that we need where we are, as a World Autism Ambassador, can they request for you to come to their area, wherever it is in the world?
Absolutely.
How do they do that?
You can request me through my website, which is my entertainment website, which is my flagship, and it's kdivas.com.
And I think we've got that up on the screen, kdivas.com.
Look at that.
We're a real show.
And I love it. You're a real person, and you get it done. kdivas.com, and what you're going to get is really a 2-for-1. And that's double entendre, because I am a twin. So you get
both twins.
You can go ahead and get both twins, or you can get the entertainment aspect of it as well, where we're able to use our music as a voice and as a sound for those who may not have the ability to communicate for themselves in that particular way by speaking or by singing. So you get a little bit of everything, and I'm just so happy to be able to share it. And so please call me.
Absolutely, and that's anywhere in the world, because we have viewers. We're international, and we have people that are watching us in every country that's on the planet at this point. But even for folks that are here in the United States, if you want to have Kamina and her sister come, what's great is that you've got a performance element to it, but they also, obviously, you can hear that Kamina is a beautiful, inspirational speaker.
I'm doing what I'm stepping outside of my own comfort zone to share and do something that I feel is very rarely done. And I, once again, I'm happy to have the platform to do it. And so if I can be of any help to anyone around the world, I will come to you. I will come to them. I will go and do the work that needs to be done, and say some things in a very nice way that people need to hear.
Yeah, well, you don't shy away from the truth.
Oh, no.
But you have a great deal of tact, and your mission is positive, and your message is positive. But you're not going to candy coat things and continue to have people say that something is purple when it's green.
Absolutely so. Absolutely correct. And that something is, I don't know, orange when it's actually blue.
Right.
you know, because Lighting It Up Blue is more than an initiative for just the United States. It's for across the world, and I think that that makes us a global community.
Yes.
And we want to start thinking globally and acting locally.
I love that.
And I will let that be the end.
Thank you so much for coming here and being with us.
Thank
it's
you for
always
having
a treat. Always a treat. Good luck on the Hill.
Thank you.
I think when when this actually airs, you will be on the Hill. I think that's how that works, and so it'll be timely. But we're going to take a break, and then we're going to be back with more Autism Live. Stick with us.
What is autism?
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 I've been asking myself that for a very, very long time.
Let me think about that one.
Trying to just
Let me think. Oh man, that's a rough one. Yes.
Autism is a neurological disorder that affects many of our kids in different ways.
It's a learning disability that affects the cognitive functions of the brain.
A lot of people have the misconception that it's a disability, and it's really not.
I look at it as like a special gift.
When one person thinks differently from another.
It's an opportunity for everyone to learn to understand someone that's a little different than them.
Autism is the ability to educate.
They're given so much talent in different areas.
To me, autism means a chance to be with and be around people you really care about. Autism is beautiful.
It's a way of seeing the world differently.
It's always unique, totally intelligent, and sometimes mysterious.
Happiness that comes out of my son's hard work.
It's a movement.
Unpredictable.
That's right.
Awesome. Love. The field I want to work in.
Laughter, fun, joy. Autism is beautiful to me.
I want you to remember these three words. There is hope.
Welcome back to Autism Live. We've been having a great day. We're getting close to the end of our last live show in the studio, but don't forget, we are going to be doing some live stuff tomorrow from Autism Rocks, and then we are going to be live from the gala on Sunday night for, we're going to close out the month of April with the Miracle Project. So be tuning into our feed. If you didn't get a chance to see some of the feed that we did from the Aut Fest last weekend, let me just tell you, I am bone tired, but we had some great stuff. Most notably, make sure that you take a look at the interview that we did with Becky G, who is the yellow Power Ranger from the Power Ranger movie, and her brother. It was off the charts. It was really amazing. She's an amazing young woman. So in any case, every April, I promised that we were going to talk about effective treatment. And by the way, that was what we were going to talk about. That was put in motion weeks ago as the last day in April. There's been an onslaught in the month of April. Always there is about people talking about autism in lots of different ways. And I want to be clear that I think that's important. And I think it's important for everyone to state their opinions and for every single voice to be heard. I am not interested in censoring anyone or their opinion ever. But what does concern me is that when we give our opinions, we are all looking at it from our perspective. That's what we do. That's what an opinion is. It's from my perspective, from the direction from which I sit and what I can see, this is the opinion that I'm giving. And each and every one of us does that. So it concerns me sometimes because part of my mission in life is to help make sure that people get access to the things that will get them progress. That's a deal that I made on the bedroom floor when I was saying, please God, show me what to do to help my child, and I promise I will do what I can to help others. I promise. And my wish, my prayer was granted. My son got the help and support that he needed and made the progress and continues to make the progress that is so meaningful to him and to me, and is ultimately meaningful to the world. And we got that through ABA, Applied Behavior Analysis, but we got the highest quality of ABA, and we, to our credit, fought and fought and fought for the funding for it. It wasn't easy. Nobody handed it to us. I wasn't able to write a check for it. Heaven knows. I don't know anybody who could, right? But we fought for the funding for it, tooth and nail, day and night. I'm gray for a reason. And we fought to make sure that we got the full prescription and that we fulfilled the full prescription to the point where I got sick, you know. It was hard. There was no part of it that was easy. It was hard for my son, but there was no part of it that was torture. I just want to be 100% clear about that. Throughout the month of April, there have been a lot of things, and this happens every month of April, that people will post some things about ABA. And there will be self-advocates, adults who are on the autism spectrum, usually, are the people who will say ABA is torture. And it's not a huge group of people, but I think it's a meaningful group of people. And I just want to take a second to talk about this, that I am sometimes disheartened is the word that I want to say, because I think when parents read that from adults on the spectrum who say, I was tortured and I've never forgiven my parents and it was just awful and I have PTSD from it, as a parent you go, oh no, I don't want to do that to my child. I was one of those parents. A developmental pediatrician who diagnosed my son I said, what about ABA? And she said, oh, don't do that. Don't do that with him. It'll turn him into a robot. Yeah, he'll speak, but he'll never know what he's going to say. And I stood in that little room with her, and because she was an expert, I trusted her. I then went on the internet to see what adults on the spectrum had to say about ABA, and a lot of them said bad things and said that it was torture, and I went, I am never going to do that with my child. So there were 6 months when the state of California was offering me funding for ABA that I said, no, take that elsewhere. I'm not having my child tortured. But as I was saying that, there were other people who were like, no, that's not my experience. That's not the experience that my child had. That's not what I've seen. And I kept looking, and the equation started going more and more like this. And sometime I'll tell the story of what tipped it, because that's a fun story, but not today. But eventually it was tipped for me, and I saw something so amazing that I couldn't look away. A little boy who was happy and speaking and making progress. And that little boy inspired me to the point where I said, I'm going to make sure that I pay attention, because I'm never going to let my child be tortured. But I want to give my child every chance to be able to do the things that he wants to do and not be held back by obstacles. When I would see, and when I still see adults who are on the autism spectrum type in and say, I don't like ABA, what I see is an adult who has ability. I see somebody who is able to say to me their opinion, and I go, woohoo, this is awesome. Congratulations, good on you. I also want to say that for some of those people, I think it is entirely reasonable that they had a version of ABA that is a precursor to this. I know that many things were being tried. I don't doubt that they experienced what they experienced, not at all. I think that there are some people doing ABA right now that are not doing good quality ABA and should lose their licenses. I do. But I can tell you that there are people doing good ABA, and good ABA does not torture children. I am the last person that would ever talk about something if I had any doubt. I had 5 years of intensive, really good ABA therapy through the Center for Autism and Related Disorders in my home, where I sat in another room and watched it on a monitor and listened to it, because I'm that level of paranoid puss. And I saw the miracle that happened in my living room. And I see who my son is now. And he talks, and he argues with me, and he is not held back by the disabling aspects of autism that he was held back by as a child. That's why I speak about ABA, to let people know, to help balance. When you see an adult who's on the autism spectrum and saying ABA is torture, I want you to stop and think about all the skills that that person has to be able to type and say their opinion and speak it proudly. And we need to celebrate that. Let them say their opinion. I think that is super duper important. Please don't let that stop you from investigating a good quality ABA program. There is no need to negate what that person's opinion is and what they went through 20, 30 years ago. If you are a parent right now who is having ABA and somebody is doing something to your child that you in any way, shape, or form look at as torture, stop that. Stop that. And if you need help figuring out how to find a good quality ABA provider, oh my goodness, I got you, right? And they're not all CARD. I love CARD because that's who we do, but there are other good ABA providers too. Let's be clear about that. But there are some bad ones. We have to be vigilant and make sure and protect our children that they are not at the hands of people who would torture them. But good quality ABA would never, ever do that. I almost let a developmental pediatrician talk me out of what ultimately gave my son the ability to do what he wants to do. Don't let anybody talk you out of investigating and making your own decision. Take a closer look. Science has shown it to be wildly effective, not at teaching them to mimic, but at giving them the tools that they need to be able to do the things that they want to do. And this thing about stimming and how ABA takes away the stim, that is not accurate either. What ABA does is gives people a more functional way of getting their needs met. The little boy who turned things around for me and became the argument that I could not turn away from was Logan Shepard. The boy that you see, and he's playing tomorrow night at Autism Rocks. He's playing there as a professional musician. We show the video of him. He's the little boy that I saw, and I saw him when he was 5. And Logan had been a kid who did this to calm himself down. CARD did not say, we're gonna, get rid of that. This had a function. This did something for Logan. All they did was say, how can we help him to, take this and make it as functional as possible? And one of the first things that they did was put drumsticks in his hands, and that boy drummed. Well, Logan doesn't need to drum all the time. Logan talks. But this is still something that, viscerally, he's a drummer. That kid's a drummer. So when people tell you, oh, ABA looks to, get rid of the stim and take it away like it's a pacifier, that's not it. That's not it. And if your ABA provider is doing that, it's not a good ABA provider, or the supervisor that's doing it, not the supervisor. So we're going to talk about effective treatment, but let's celebrate whenever there is a person who is on the autism spectrum, has enough skill to write on a computer and say, I disagree with you, let's all go, yes. Because that's what we're fighting for our kids. That's absolutely what we're fighting for. All right, I've gone so long that we're not going to have time to talk about our mindfulness moment because we got to take a break and get Nancy Allspaw-Jackson in here because we have to say goodbye to Amy Zhang. So stick with us. Hi, I'm Shannon Penrod, and we're at the ABCs and XYZs of Special Needs Conference. And this year, for the first time, they've got something really remarkable. It's the Entrepreneurial Boutique. These are all items that have been made and are being sold by individuals who have special needs. So we're going to do a little shopping and talk to some of these fabulous entrepreneurs. Come on.
My name is Molly Rarick, and I'm founder of Breed's Gift. We're a nonprofit that serves teens and adults with special needs, like Chase here. We were founded in 2013 and serve people in the Conejo Valley, Santa Barbara, and LA.
Our main objective is to give our participants the skills they need to gain a more independent life.
My name is Shelley Cox, and Lisa Zalagi and I are founders of Creative Steps and Create Micro Business Enterprises. And the items that we're selling here today are all made by the clients who have passions about what they want to make, and then they get the profits from what they make after we've paid all of the other expenses.
We are here today because my goal is to be independent, and also I would like to share all my artwork, and I would like to sell.
Thinking about at his young age being a businessman, it's amazing. I cannot be more proud.
This is Logan Shepard. At first glance, he looks like a typical American teenager. He plays in a band, loves hanging out with his friends, he doesn't like doing homework, and he's not really fond of broccoli. But Logan Shepard is not your typical 14-year-old. Logan was diagnosed with autism at the age of 2. He was nonverbal, made no eye contact, and his parents were told to abandon all hope. Instead, his parents began an intensive intervention treatment. At its center was a quality ABA program known as the CARD method. This is Logan Shepard now.
All I really want to say is, I'm kind of copying Martin Luther King. I kind of have a dream that one day I can just inspire people and never give up, because that's what I want to do in life, because if I can succeed, they can succeed, and I will succeed.
To follow Logan's musical journey, visit www.facebook.com/officialdrummerrock or @drummerrock on Instagram. For more information on the CARD method, visit www.centerforautism.com or call 800-345-CARD. Rock on, Logan.
Got a big weekend coming up.
We do have a big weekend coming up. We're going to Autism Rocks, and I was just talking about Logan Shepard, that he was the little boy that I saw that got us started at CARD.
Right.
He's like the headliner. He's actually going to be performing with the guitarist from Kiss.
Oh wow!
That's
big.
It's huge, and that's happening tomorrow at Autism Rocks.
Okay.
It's the culmination at Autism Rocks, which is at Universal Studios. I hope you guys will come out and see that. And then on Sunday, we will be live for part of the time while we're at Autism Rocks. I don't know how much, but we'll do a live feed from there tomorrow afternoon starting. And then we're live from the Miracle Project Gala on Sunday night. So it's a lot. But we have another event that's going on here, and we wanted to make sure that we took a moment to say and to shower some love in a direction for somebody who has been behind the scenes and worked tirelessly.
Absolutely tirelessly. We're talking about the amazing Amy, as we call her, Amy Zhang from Act Today.
Yes.
And she is leaving Act Today. Tomorrow's her last day. And we both want to say just how treasured she has been.
Yes.
And what a gift and a blessing she was to Act Today, and particularly to me.
Yes.
I could not have functioned without her. She is everything, and she has helped so many families, and I hope she knows she's taking that with her as she leaves.
Absolutely.
The blessing she has been to everybody.
10 years that she
almost
has
10.
Almost 10 at Act Today, and she's moving on to go to another nonprofit that has a global aspect to it, so that she can, because I think she's on a mission to help change the world.
She is. She's just one of those people that naturally gives.
Yes, and that wanted to spend her life. And we call her a superhero, and we actually have some pictures of her.
Do we?
Look
at that.
And
she's over on the far left.
Yes, in the red cape, and but she really
there she is with the mask on.
And there's Dr. Grampuchet in the Batman next to her.
There's some superheroes right there.
Yes, amazing superheroes.
There she is with her dog, Henry Winkler.
Henry Winkler,
yes.
her dog. And there's Viri. We talk about Viri all the time on the show.
Who's our grant assistant.
Yes, and Viri is still going to be here, thank goodness. But Amy has been a light here. Everybody
Yes, she
who
has.
knows her loves her.
Her attitude is simply amazing.
What a good person.
Right.
She is, and you know, it's not easy when you're working for a nonprofit and you're trying to get grants to families. For every grant that Act Today says yes to, there's at least 10 that don't get granted. And it's not that Act Today is saying no, it's just that there isn't, you know, fundraising. That will never, no matter what we do, fundraise enough to grant every single grant. And it's hard.
Yeah.
It's really, really hard. And Amy has manned the phones and made it possible and really been the person that I always say to her, all good things come from Amy.
That's right.
So she has been incredible, and she will be so sorely
You know, they
missed.
say everybody's replaceable. I don't think that's true. I think she's irreplaceable.
That's true either.
Yeah.
I think that's true.
I
think
think
everybody, you know, we look forward to the person who takes her place coming in and bringing their brand of special. But no, I think some people leave their mark, and Amy has left her mark in a beautiful, beautiful way.
So
and
thank you, Amy.
yes, thank you so much. We love you, and we look for really good things to come in the future. We've got about 4 minutes left, so I wanted to take just a minute. We normally do a mindfulness moment on Thursday, and I thought maybe we could do a mindfulness moment, the two of us together. We know that our journey as autism parents and people who love somebody who's on the spectrum and people who are on the spectrum is one that has a lot of stress.
It does.
Right? And so we know there's more and more studies that are showing that having a moment of mindfulness is like an insurance policy. It's not as if when you're at the height of your stress that you can say, okay, well, now I'm going to contemplate the leaves on a petal. That's not what it is. But if we take a moment some other time in the day, in the morning or something, and have a moment of mindfulness, it's an insurance policy that helps us in those stressful moments to come at them in a better way. And so our tip for today is to ask the positive assumptive question. Do you know what a positive assumptive question is? I'm putting you on the spot here.
Okay, I would assume it's asking a question that
the answer is going to be some form of a yes, or that, or saying, for instance, and we were talking about this earlier with Kamina Ballard Dawkins, the positive assumptive question. So in your head, we talk to ourselves a lot.
Yes.
And a lot of times we'll say to ourselves, you know, why did I do that? Well, that's a negative assumptive question, because the negative assumption is that you were in the wrong, right? That's what the connotation is. So if we ask ourselves positive assumptive questions like, what can I do to make myself feel better today? Then the positive assumption is that you can feel better today.
Okay.
What can I do to help someone else? The positive assumption is that there is something that you can do. How can I treat myself today? What can I treat myself to today? That there is something to be treated to. Okay. So whatever the conversation is in your head, whatever the thing is that's kicking your keister, to stop for a moment, take a couple of breaths, and see if you can word it. It's kind of like a game. Like, how can I turn that into a positive assumptive question?
So instead of what can I do to not be so stressed out, you would say, what can I do to treat myself with loving kindness?
Right.
Okay.
Right. How can I be my calmest self today?
Okay.
What do I need to do to be my calmest, best self today? Because then there's a positive side. And our brain is like a supercomputer that always tries to say yes. So when we say, man, I always screw things up, your brain goes, yes.
I screw things up.
Right.
Yeah.
You screw things up. And here's the proof. Here's the proof, and we will remember all those things. So if we say, how can I be my best self today? Then the supercomputer goes, yes, here's how. And it populates and it goes, you know, you can do X, Y, and Z. You can take time to go to the bathroom. You can take time, you know, to breathe. You can take time to go for a walk, and it fills in all of the blanks. So if we all just take a minute today and ask the positive assumptive questions and see what comes up from our supercomputer, it's another way of being mindful. We think that mindful is always meditative, but there are lots of different ways to be mindful. Now, Samantha's going to get a hook and drag me out
Okay.
if I don't. But in any case, don't forget that tomorrow be looking for us on our Facebook feed for live from the
Autism Rocks.
ramp up to Autism Rocks. And then on Sunday evening, we will be at the gala for the Miracle Project.
Right.
But we don't want to forget to say between now and the next time, well, tomorrow will be a little bit live, but it's Samantha's birthday.
Oh,
on
happy birthday,
Saturday.
Samantha.
So everybody, if you want to say happy birthday, you have now until next Wednesday to
Okay.
write in and say happy birthday. Samantha has been my particular gift this year.
She's like Amy is to me.
Oh
to
my
you.
gosh. She has just done amazing things here at Autism Live. And I would tell you, we started with the amazing Emily.
Right.
And Emily, when she left, was like, how are you going to survive without me?
Right.
And I was like, I don't know.
And then you had
But
Kelby.
then Kelby came, and Kelby brought his special.
Right.
And when Kelby left, I said to you, I don't know if I
Right.
can do this again. And we have Samantha now, and I wouldn't trade her for anything.
Right.
So so we're going to ask positively assumption
Okay.
who's going to come to make things fabulous at ACT today for everybody, but most especially for Nancy. We're out of time. So until we see you again, give your kiddos a hug from me.
And give yourselves a hug from me. And once again, thank you, Amy.
Thank you, Amy. Bye-bye for now.